Welcome back, everybody. Very excited about this week. We've got Pieter Oosthuizen. He's branded as Pieter Du Toit Oosthuizen, and this week with us. And we're going to talk everything transformation, business transformation, IT transformation, whatever transformation is in your mind. This man has done it all. He comes with lots of recommendations. So what you don't know as our audience to the Mining Coach podcast is that every week when we speak to somebody, we ask them, who do you know that we don't? That should be on this podcast, adding value to people, to a younger version of ourselves. And today we've got Pieter Oosthuizen here because people have highly recommended him and to talk to us about a younger version of himself, transformation. But Pieter, good afternoon, and you are so very welcome to this podcast this afternoon.
Christo, thank you very, very much. It's really for me a privilege to be here and also to be able to share a couple of things about myself. So I'm really looking forward to this. Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks, Pieter, because when we share these stories about ourselves, we are actually quite vulnerable. And we do share some of the failures and some of the successes. And would you mind introducing yourself and tell our listeners a little bit about who's this person and how do we relate with him in the mining industry?
Yes, Christo, thank you for that. So, I have a career before mining. So my first job was in government. So I worked for the Department of Health. Just before 94, I was instrumental in the whole change and transformation in the Department of Health. I was still very young at the moment, and then eventually was transferred into the Special Advisory for Health. And that is where my journey started on transformation. I've worked there with phenomenal people, and that really taught me a lot about transformation. I was then recruited by the Department of Land Affairs, and I worked there in the Department of Monitoring and Evaluation. And again, it was a transformation journey of note, to take us through the redistribution and restitution programs, but also the role, of information and data and information systems and how people should use that. So that was phenomenal. And then one day a company called Q Data Consulting in the old days approached me and said, listen, they've got a joint venture company in Namibia. They want to take over the company, but they want to place somebody there to help them to manage the transformation from the current shareholder agreement to something else. Now, now you come out of government, you've learned certain things, and now you need to do this. So for me, they said to me, Pieter, we trust you, you will do this. No? And my wife and I then decided to move to Namibia. And we had a 6-year journey, in Windhoek. Met the most phenomenal people in Windhoek, experienced the absolute positive change that took place in that country since their independence.
Yeah.
And then at one stage, I was recruited there by a large conglomerate investment company that owns hotels and retail outfits and fishing companies and marine engineering companies and super farms in Namibia. And I was then the director for IT for that company. So again, there, for me, that was quite an interesting journey because we had this whole fragmented technology environment. And that's what I sold to the chairman as well, to say to him, it's so fragmented, it's costly, we have not standardized on things, we've got different skill sets. And by the way, Y2K is here as well. So that was my real first big transformation project, that I did without really realizing, this is called transformation. And and one learned so many lessons from that. There were failures, and but many lessons. So I would rather use the word lessons than failures. Failures is very negative. So
Yes.
it's more lessons. And then I moved to De Beers, in 2003 to De Beers in Botswana. That's where my mining career started.
Okay.
And, and slightly thereafter, I moved to Anglo Operations Limited in Johannesburg, where I really enjoyed this a career all about change. So Anglo at the time also decided, they had smaller ERP systems, but Anglo needed this consolidated system. So, there's work that we did for Anglo Base Metals at the time, and I used that template that we created at Anglo Base Metals, and we built on that template to create, this whole template for Anglo American. So that was really good. And for me, what I've learned there as well is, again, one of those lessons. It's also taking people with in the transformation journey.
Mm.
Technology is technology, but the big thing is the people that you need to take with. And it's also the organizational change, Christo, that you want to bring about. It's not about the technology, So a couple of years ago, I did a presentation at one of the mining conferences on digitalization. And I said to them as well, it's not about the technology, it's all about the organizational transformation that you want to bring about.
Yeah.
So that really, my career up to that time formed me, to really understand and realize it's not about the technology. You can use any technology. And I know we do evaluate and assess the various technologies and how they fit into our architectures and all of that. But it's about the change, and talking about the change as well. And that's something, that I've learned at my current employer as well. If we don't change, if somebody is not moving our cheese, if we don't embrace change, if we don't embrace the future, we're going to land up nowhere. And that's a reality.
Mm.
And my niche is really, I've created for me a career, in that whole transformation journey of organizations. So, if you also look at my CV, you can really see organizational change the whole time there. So
Yeah.
I would definitely engage with the executive team. We will decide how we then take this specific change requirement, and then I drive and manage it. So for me, I'm passionate about it. If you, for example, look at, where did we start in 1760 with the first industrial revolution, and where are we now? So there was significant change in that period up till now. But the fact is, we are in so much trouble environmentally, and as a global people, we need to now start also thinking differently of transforming back somewhere, where the planet can at least survive, and us as a human race can survive. So I always also find myself in that field. So anything from technology to organizational change to this environmental and social change that we are engaging in, at present. Really enjoying that journey. But what I've decided for myself many years ago, I'm writing my own job profile, and when I started at my current employer as well, the people that interviewed me said, at this company, you can write your own profile, but please first do this for me. And that's what I enjoy about the business that I'm in as well. It's a company that gives you so much flexibility, where you can really write your own profile to the benefit of the organization, So
Yeah.
that is my background. That's where I'm currently.
Peter, thanks for that. And I'm thinking about the younger Peter or the younger Christo, or whoever that is, that is on the sharp end of these transformation changes, and they are experiencing either a new enterprise resource and planning tool, ERP system. They at the front end of a new software. Maybe it's a new tablet that they're introducing in a workshop, or a new software wherever at the mine, or just technology, or any just change.
Yeah.
And you've spoken about the people element and how important it is for us as the executives. And you said you work with a senior team, and then you decide on, this is how we are disrupting maybe this organization. And it is a disruption. There is a discomfort that's going to come. How do we help our people deeper down in the organization to deal with this?
Yeah. So, Christo, my perspective on that is, yes, at an executive level, they drive the strategy, they drive the plan, they own the capital, they own the talent, and all of these things that one talks about at that level. But if you do these projects, you have to do it with the people. And I had a colleague many years ago that said to me as well, Pieter, we are now going to do this project to people. But we need to do it with people.
Yeah.
And that's my point of departure always. You speak to the people that you are going to touch, that will have to work with this new product or with this new service. You get them involved. You make them excited. You take them, along, on this journey. You have to do that. My honest opinion, Christo, if you do not do that, and that is what I've seen in many cases, things are not going to happen. It doesn't help, and that's why I said to you as well, for me, it's not about the technology. For me, it's about the business outcome. And how do I create the right business outcomes? Is to take my people that's generating my products. You need to take them with on that journey. That's for me like change management 101 that I have learned, is to do that. Without the people, that project is going to fail, because that people will generate your benefit. They need to use the tools and services.
And what if the people say it's not going to work?
And you always get them. We have done it like this for the last 10 years. Why do we want to change it? Now, and it's what I do in many cases is to say, okay, but if you want to prove this, maybe that it will not work, I'm going to put you in a leadership position on this project. My honest opinion, that changes people's perspective as well. And you will always get negative people, but really involve them, but give them an accountability to do this. I think they start seeing for themselves. I've gone to the extent where I've always also subscribed a book, and I said, listen, see if you can find who moved my cheese, from Spencer Johnson.
Yeah.
And then that person will come back 3 days later, and he said, it's an amazing perspective. It's like a fable, but it's the perspective of that book gives you in a funny way is really good. You need to realize that things will change.
Yeah.
You need to embrace that change, monitor that change, be happy about the change, be part of the change, enjoy the change. And that's how I look at it as well. For me, change is necessary, change is good, change is healthy at the end of the day.
Have you ever had where you implemented a new application where it actually didn't deliver what it promised to do? And how do you deal with that?
You're putting me on the spot here, but
sorry, we didn't prep that.
The reality is it happens, and yes, if I can think about, let me quickly think, many years ago, and it was not even about the thing that I implemented, it's about a new organizational structure, it's a new way of work, we were commercializing IT in this big Namibian company. And, there was lots of resistance. It will never work. We have done it like this. It to an extent failed because people made it fail, and I was really not experienced in proper transformation management. So
Okay.
that was for me a huge learning curve. And at the end of the day, I landed up in the HR manager's office and said to him, how are we going to make this work? And then this whole conversation about taking people with. So that was for me, it was for me a learning experience. It
Yeah.
was a failure because, we pushed out the project with a couple of months. But, in the end, with communication, you can get there. And yes, there were casualties. There's always a casualty. Okay, I mean, somebody that decides to rather move on than to be part of the chain.
And that's in the minority in your experience.
Yeah, for sure. It's also always. It's like I would say 10%. The 10% or even less. People that really do not like and embrace the disruption. And for me, disruption is also, it's a new word. It's a relative new word in the industry as well. But, it's for me about that change. It's a radical change at the end of the day. That people are not used to that. People are wired differently. And I think that's for me the lesson that I've learned as well. Everyone is not the same than me. Or you, Christo. Everyone is different,
Yeah.
and they experience this change or this transformation also different. But you must be the North Star. So I always said, I've got this mandate, I need to drive it, but let me be positive. Let me be the North Star.
Yeah.
If I'm not that project will fail for sure.
Wow. And you've spoken about, not failures, but learnings. And what are apart from taking people along, what are the few or, list of short list of key success learnings that you've had over the years? You want to make a success of a big transformation effort, apart from taking people along.
Yeah.
Have you got a recipe that you work to, or is there a list of, smart things that you do all the time?
I think the first thing is people need to understand, and they need to understand where you are heading, and then you need to understand them as well, because they've got fears, so any transformation brings fear, so number one, they need to understand what the organization want to achieve. We need to understand their fears. You need to communicate regularly. You need to have a plan, so it's not jump off the cliff and build your wings on the way down. There must be a plan, really a plan that they can see, that they can associate to as well. And then you talk about that plan and how how you're progressing, but also give them the opportunity. As I said, I hate to do a project or an initiative to somebody. I like to do it with them. Take them on the journey.
Yeah.
Let them be part of this, make them excited about the journey. And then one need to be honest. If things are not working out here and there, you need to have that conversation and one need to remedy that. And you need to make sure that, let's say it's a new way of work, that is properly embedded through all sorts of learning, whether it's on the job, whether it's in part of the project, formal training, and so on. So, but that's in short, Christo, what I will look at. And you need to make sure that your people in the end also embrace this change. They need to be excited about it. You need to create future change agents as well. Yeah? So that's my recipe in short.
And when you say get people to embrace, those changes, be the change agents, call it the disciples that you want to target to share this message, to tell the story on your behalf.
Yeah.
Is there something you do with them differently? Are they people that are naturally there. They are call it the first adopters that want to embrace it, and they will run with it, and you look for them and you single them out and you use them as your storytellers. How do you identify those people, and how do you get those change agents that, you know, sell the story on your behalf?
Yeah. So it's first of all, you know, positive thinkers. You know, that's for me important. The next thing is it must be your best resources that you can afford to release, you know, when you do these projects.
Okay.
And then I go sometimes for some of the most difficult people, you know, if I can call it that, to put them on the project to say, you need to help. Because whether we know it or not, they have a different perspective. And it's always good to also listen to that perspective.
Okay.
You know, so as long as you listen then, and I can tell you, don't be always over optimistic. Also listen to the pessimists sometimes. Because they would see risk, they would see all sorts of mountains, you know, but you need to understand why they are seeing that. They're seeing it out of experience. So you can learn from them, they can definitely contribute. So you can use all of the skills, actually, that's it. But preferably, you know, your most positive and successful people in the organization make the biggest change as well.
I love that. It's the first time I've heard that you don't just jump off a cliff and then, you know, create and plan your wings along the way down. I love that. On that topic about, you know, making a plan, a lot of times, well, certainly this is my experience, and you know, I can only talk for myself, that sometimes you are on the receiving end of these technology projects, and there's a timeline that the executive has committed to.
Yeah.
And during the execution of this project, you find that this is actually taking a lot longer than what the executives thought it's going to happen. And then you get, you know, a lot of tension and a lot of anxiety along the way that, you know, this is behind, it's falling behind, but it's actually to do with the planning, the upfront planning.
Yeah.
Have you had cases where, you know, that's the case? And how can you help a younger version of ourselves to deal with that? How do we give that pushback? How do we change? How do we deal with the fact that this project is behind? And is it common that projects are behind and there's a stress and anxiety that goes with it? Is there anything we can do on the planning side? I know I've asked now 5 questions, but it's all about planning, and it's all about the people that are on the receiving end of that plan that either gets executed well or, you know, have to make plans to get it on the timeline and, you know, get the right outcomes on that plan.
Yeah, so Christo, again, is fail to plan is plan to fail. That is one thing, you know, that's in my mind always. It's important, you know, so when that project is incubated, that you are part of that process. And in many cases, you are not. But at least when you start with the concept and when you start with, you know, your planning and approval, for me, you know, and I'm a sucker for scoping and architecture. So if you don't properly scope a project, you know, to understand exactly what you must deliver by when, what the expectations are, who your resources would be, what's the art of the possible, you know, what are the risks? That is the one thing that I want to say. If I look at failed projects, I see a lack of risk management.
Okay.
I see a total lack of planning up front before this thing, you know, needs to kick off. I sometimes see a failure of a commercial process as well. You know, my view is commercial plays a very important role in this. My commercial team members have you know, they also have their view of what this thing must deliver and commercially deliver. So you need to put that project through a rigorous process. You need to understand what are your technology dependencies, other external dependencies. You know, people don't always look at those things. And when things start to go sour, you know, or south on the project, then all of a sudden there's a risk. So for me, risk management upfront, understand your dependencies, understand, your assumptions clearly, and make sure that your leadership teams, as well as your team members fully understand that. That's for me, one of the, I would not say it's a lesson. I had very good coaches. That I must also say, that helped me along the way. But those are things that are important. And any good project manager will tell you that as well. Is, guys, we need to understand risk issues and dependencies. Scope need to be done impeccably. And then obviously you involve your architects from the business architects, or what do they call the enterprise architects, you involve in the process as well. And you limit your risk for failure at the end. But you need to keep on doing your risk management on a project. That's for me the single biggest thing that many people forget, is to really do risk management on a project.
Wow.
So if I can give advice to a younger self of me, definitely, take that recipe and apply it earlier in your life. Don't assume anything. Assumption causes big trouble at the end of the day. If your assumptions are wrong.
Okay. Pieter, you've started with, a different, we'll call it a generalist expertise field when you did your earlier studies, and then you ventured into technology. Is that something that's always been close to your heart, and is that something that has been there all the time, or happened by chance? How did that come about?
No, so I must honestly say, so I was in a normal high school, and I completed my grade 12 matric in 1985. And, also in a small school, very small high school up in the Limpopo province. But for me, is when I look at it, you never actually at that time realized what opportunities there are. And the one thing that was not there, and it's maybe not even here today, is the view of future careers. So let me tell you that. So I never aspired to be doing something with and in technology.
Yeah.
But I bought my first computer around, I think, 84, 85. It's a big Commodore 64, something like that.
Exactly. You're giving your age away. Oh,
So
those were. Yeah,
and yeah, and then when I completed my national service, I went to university, and the first thing that I wanted then is a computer, a word processor. Anyway, so I bought a computer, and I just really got, totally hacked on that. I've enjoyed that. I've written programs, I developed databases, anything. So it really started off there. And in my first job at the Department of Health, they said to me, Pieter, you are responsible for primary healthcare project budgets. Yeah, and they gave me a book. Now, these big books with the big sheets, and everything was written in hand there.
Oh,
So
no.
this was the capital for the year, and then this is a clinic here and a clinic in Concordia and this, and then all of these things. And then at the end of the year, it got audited and there's a stamp. And I said to the director at the point, listen, we've got computers. And she said to me, no, you can go to the IT advisory committee of the department and put your case there. So I went a bit overboard, and I also got myself a printer, but in any case. And then I put all of that into a spreadsheet later on, and when I got a computer, and then all of a sudden it was spreadsheets, and then there were Harvard graphics that I did the graphics of, and then we started to, at that point, digitalize the department. So that is really, where my career started off.
Yeah.
And I worked for, very interesting people. So during the change in 94, one of the advisory's jobs was to identify all the primary healthcare clinics in South Africa. Then I started to work with GPS, GISs, all of these spatial databases. And it depends on who you work with. But I worked with this phenomenal scientist who told me and taught me many things. And with all of that knowledge, I went to the Department of Land Affairs, and so that was a good success story about what I learned. So for me, the other advice to a younger Pieter would be, go and learn from other people.
Mm.
Don't try to learn on yourself. Go and learn from those guys, the Christos and the Pieter Du Toit Oosthuizen that failed here and there. And that are also specialists, but go and learn from them. Don't try to learn from yourself.
Yeah.
You're gonna, so learn from other people. That's definitely something. And I was lucky in that regard. And the other thing is, if I look back, I've been afforded many opportunities. Now, so that's also what I would tell the younger Pieter. Give a lot more opportunities to other people as well. So it makes a significant difference in your life. So I'm at this point, if you can create more successful people, more successful organizations, more successful projects through giving people opportunities, do that.
Yeah.
Do that. Don't sit on all of the knowledge. Give
Yeah.
people exposure. Yeah.
Work yourself out of a job.
Exactly. Create better people than what you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John Maxwell talks about holding the ladder for others to climb higher than what you are.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
It's for me one of the, and I only realized it much later in my life, but if you give young people or any other person the opportunity to grow, to bear fruit, it's a fantastic experience to see that.
Exactly.
See other people successful.
Yeah.
To see other people, going up in the ranks,
Yeah.
buying a new car or a better house or taking the family on vacation or getting married or whatever the case may be. But to see that people happy, for me, it's that's my passion. It's really and that's part of that transformation journey as well. It's not about me or about the organization that I work with. It's also about the people, Christo, that you and I work with, is to grow them and to give them opportunity. I can tell you, they will do the same probably one day as well.
It's exactly what you said. It was my experience as well, that the good coaches in your life or the mentors took the time to help you, that took the time to tap you on the shoulder and say, Christo, let me come. I want to show you something.
Yeah.
You take the time to listen to them, but they've taken the time to spend time with you. It is so natural for us as human beings to pay that forward and do exactly the same thing because of the positive experience that we've had. It is a hugely positive experience to have somebody care enough about you that they take the time to spend individual time with you and help you. And then it automatically happens in the next generation.
Absolutely. And for me, the one thing that I so cherish, and on the projects that I do as well, but give a person that opportunity, but give him that freedom. Give him that freedom to move and to also make a mistake, because all of us are going to make mistakes, and you learn through those mistakes as well. But guide that person, coach that person, don't come down on him in a punitive manner, That's also, and that was my good mentors and coaches, and I can name them. I said to my wife the other day, I was blessed with very good managers and leaders, but that were actually coaches, to help me to be successful, So one must look. That's the other advice to a younger Pieter, is to find that people, find them. They will make a difference in your life. They are really very good people outside that wants to help. So.
And there's so many people that are desperate for that help, and they're looking for that coach. They're looking for that opportunity also. It's funny that sometimes people have forgotten to believe in themselves, and just that one conversation, they start believing in themselves again.
Yeah.
And
No, sure.
sorry, carry on.
No, I'm just emphasizing again, Christo, what you're saying. And this year we had some students, from university that joined us in a development program, but they completed their engineering studies. And I really had a couple of very interesting students working with me, and I said to them, but I can coach you now and mentor you, but you must do the same with me. So Fridays were these sessions, and it's interesting to see as well what we, Christo, can learn from these youngsters from university. How
Absolutely.
they think. They think differently.
Yeah.
So for some of them, this whole sustainable development goals or ESG,
Absolutely.
that's top of their mind, and that was for me an eye opener to see that. So if you ever have the time, if you have not done it, do that. It was for me an eye opener to really sit with it. So okay, I can learn you many things here. How digital works, processes works, how we do business transformation, how we do the ramp up to production to 5 million tons per month or whatever the case may be. But tell me a bit, what is your experience and your insights? It's an eye opener, it's really, for me, it was an eye opener, so like coaching upwards, not downwards.
Yeah. I had a very similar experience just the past week. We are, as a team, working on a project at a mine site, and this younger person, a woman engineer that is significantly younger than I am, I was so excited, and I told her, we were driving, and I told her, I can't wait to be on this project with you, because you're going to teach me stuff. Don't think for a moment, because I'm maybe 20 years your senior, that I know everything. And I want you to teach me what you know, and what are you seeing differently than what I'm seeing. Don't for a moment assume that I'm more senior than you. There's stuff that you bring that that I don't. And I think it's that attitude that we must have about whether we are a young person or whether we're older, to learn from each other and leverage that strength.
No, fully agree. That's if one actually look at your whole life and how things like that changes, so like when we were children, you keep quiet, sitting in the corner. Even when you are younger, you came out of university, they see the knowledge that you have is more of a danger to yourself than anything else. And at this point in time, we sit and we talk with those children. They are the future at the end of the day as well. So listen to them.
Yeah. Pieter, we've nearly exhausted the time. I'm looking at the time. Any last few comments, suggestions, insights that you want to share with us today?
Yeah, for me is number one, and we have heard that so many times, life is a journey, it's a journey.
Yeah.
Embrace change, embrace transformation, make a difference. All of us can make a difference. Small things, incremental steps, doesn't have to be big changes, incremental changes. My view is sometimes those incremental changes, they make the biggest difference.
Yes.
And keep on learning and keep on sharing. For me, the one thing is keep on learning. I learn every day. Every day I learn new things. On the projects that I'm doing as well. I'm currently doing an urban development project for Vedanta. We are building houses, townhouses, hospitals, schools, new infrastructure, name it. I'm leading that project, but I'm learning. I'm learning from the architects. I'm learning from the engineers. I'm learning from the bricklayers. I'm learning from the learning and development team. So, every day you learn, so it's not that you go into that project uneducated and inexperienced,
Yeah.
but you learn, make a point of learning every day, learn new things, so that I can leave you with that. Learn new things every day.
Thanks, Pieter. This has been a very good conversation, a lovely conversation, and we appreciate your time. I love your mining equipment there in the background and the hard hat. We
Yeah,
appreciate you, and we'd like to release you and enjoy the next journey of transformation projects that you're working on, especially this urban development one. And thank you for your time.
good. Thank you, Christo, for inviting me and having me. As I said in the beginning, it was really a privilege. I've listened to some of the podcasts that you have, and I saw ex-colleagues there as well. Colleagues that shared some companies with me before and after me. I would really recommend to anyone, go and listen to those podcasts. They are definitely worth listening to. So thank you, Christo.
Thanks a lot, Pieter. Welcome back, everybody. So let's just recap the conversation with Pieter today. Really, really wonderful to have a discussion on transformation. So with any transformation project, number one, no surprise, take your people along. Number two, make sure you plan properly. Number three, make sure that you give feedback along the way and take people along the way, all the way. And number four, make sure that there's learnings across so that you can incorporate those learnings. The fifth thing and the final one is this lifelong attitude of learning from a younger version of you, and also just have an attitude of learning. Thank you very much for watching and listening this week. We wish you all the best. Happy mining. Enjoy what you are doing. Cheers.